So you want to know how to nuke every single crest in the game? Well, not every single one, most of them. We're not covering the Nova Crest Palaces in this video. That will be saved for another video on the channel. As a prerequisite though, to start this video, I will be using mostly War God Finn in all of these nukes. Since he is the first ascended character, I would assume most people have him, but if you don't have War God Finn, pretty much any other nuker will work. You may just have to tweak some of the team comps. Also, since we are talking about nuking, I'm going to consider too that you already know what certain nuke equips are and how to actually nuke. So I'm not going to be going in detail about all of that. Monday is a very simple one. We have Oldius, which is literally the easiest crest palace in the game to farm. This crest has 3 stages, and the first 2 stages are just ads. In order to get through these very quickly, make sure you have equips that have high multipliers and utilize crit chance to your advantage to instantly kill the mobs. Once you get to the boss room though, you'll realize that Oldius needs to be broken, and the way how we break this guy extremely quick is by utilizing Est. Est instantly halves his break bar, and if we use a bunch of break equips on Est, we're able to instantly break Oldius with just Est alone. After we break Oldius, then we nuke with War God Finn or any other attacker, and that's literally it. Now I will say, if your arts are a bit lacking, consider using units like Gray, any other support slot holders, or Forte, or even using a B up equip like X Marks the Spot or Mirage Kimono. Oh, and it goes without saying too, since I didn't mention it as the prerequisite, but make sure you have arts up crest on most of your nuking characters. It would make your life a whole lot easier. Ifrit is the crest palace for Tuesday. Just like Oldius, you're going to be doing the exact same thing to get through these ads. High multiplier equips and use crit chance to your advantage. Once you're at the boss room, there's a few ways you can nuke him. You can freeze him to weaken him a bit. You can use a unit with time stop like Water Malia so he doesn't hit you while you nuke, or you can straight up nuke him if you have enough damage. Now all of these are perfectly fine. You can do literally any of these strats. Just keep in mind that he does reduce your HP to near death as soon as you get into the boss room because of his initial nuke he does. So for me, what I like to do is, instead of cleansing it or instead of worrying about any of that, I use Water Malia for safety and consistency, since relying on status effects like freeze is just not it. A team like this should get you by, but if you struggle with not having enough arts, get rid of Genos and use one of the units we talked about previously. Or if you don't have War God Finn, any other nuker that has a high multiplier should be enough to get through this one. Also, Jay can be replaced with any other damage buffer in the game like Draken or Melty. Alvina and Reflect. You need both of these to even consider doing this crest palace. You have to inflict disease in order to make sure your team actually can do damage to Palomisia, since she has a constant heal, and you need Reflect in order to make sure your team doesn't die. As for the other waves, it's just like Ifrit, just like Oldius, the same thing as always, crit chance and just high damage multiplier equips, and you should be fine to get through those ad waves. Now, one thing is that I would highly recommend just avoiding this day in general. Since you need Alvina and a Reflect unit, the only Reflect units you can really use are Malim and Duran, and if you don't have Malim, then using Duran is just such a downgrade because he doesn't have a support slot equipped, and he can make it to where your nukes just aren't as consistent because you're not having that additional 50 arc gauge from type 0, and having to use 2 units by default in your nuke just makes it to where it's very, very strict on who you can actually use, and if you are a bit newer to the game, it may be a bit difficult to actually get through this crest palace pretty consistently. Shrine of Eternity. Now there is another crest palace on this day, but it takes too long, so that's why we're focusing on this one. Not to mention, this has the best in-slot crest for all taunt tanks in the game. This crest takes a bit more prep than all the other ones that we've mentioned so far. In order to get through all the ads without them inflicting you with a stats down of some kind, you need to use Gray or J. Since they give themselves constant arts, it is easy for them to handle all the ads in this stage. Crips alone won't deal enough damage to get through these high HP ads. If you use J, then just some kind of crit and using J's true art in every stage should be enough to get you through all of it. But since J is extremely limited, let's talk about if you have Gray. The easiest way to do it with Gray is to true art on the first wave if you have enough art gauge, then use your art in tandem with another unit's art for the rest of the waves. So you get to the boss room, well, super art with War God Finn, and you should be good. If your attacker doesn't kill, then try using a burn equip like Angela's true weapon, since this boss takes more damage if you burn them first. One thing I didn't mention that I'll throw in right here is that with this boss, you do need to use a unit that is relatively quick as your nuker, since this guy does burrow underground. Literally everyone will die once he jumps out of the ground, so you want to make sure that doesn't happen. The Light Dragon Crest is a very simple one. Clear the ads with high multiplier equips and crit chance. Once you get to the boss, that's where it gets a little bit more difficult. You have to either use a light unit to deal tons of damage against him, since he doesn't have a resistant to it, or you can use any other character in the game. Just make sure you lower the elemental resist corresponding to the attacker you actually choose. So if you choose War God Finn, make sure you bring a lot of earth res down to get through all of his earth resist. If you're using a physical character or a magic character, consider bringing a physical res down or a magic res down as well to deal even more damage. Oh, and defense ignore as well, since this guy does negate crits, so that could be pretty useful if you're struggling to nuke this. It's not required by any means, but defense ignore can help you out a bit. So you can really do either Crest Palace on this day. It's more so just which one can you handle. The Pro Crest Palace isn't anything too crazy, just make sure that you're able to poison the boss in order to deal damage. Poison units, poison equips, poison res down, all that type of stuff will make your life easier on this one, and as long as you poison, the boss will die very, very easily because he doesn't have that much HP at all. Even if you have everything, like literally everything, poison res down, poison equips, all that type of stuff, even a poison unit if you want to go that far, there's still a chance that you can miss a poison. And I hate to say it, but I have missed more poisons on this boss than I can count. So keep that in mind if you want to try to farm this one for Saturday. Now for the Extreme Crest Palace. This one works very similar to that of Shrine of Eternity, where you need to add clear with Gray or J for the first few waves, especially with these skeleton guys popping up. These guys don't take crit damage at all. Using a true art or an art will be the best thing to get through these waves. Once you get to the boss though, you'll see that it says all this stuff about break. And yeah, we're going to be ignoring all of that. If you want to nuke this very easily, just use a physical res down character like Yuzu, or Draken. You can also use a magic res down character if you're using a magic nuker, by the way. Would highly recommend though that no matter what, your nuker has super crits just to make your life a bit easier. This one is a bit more strict when it comes to the units you can use, so if you can't do this one, don't sweat it, because if you can't clear with like just brute forcing it like this, you have to actually do the mechanics, and at that point it's better to just go back to the Pro Crest Palace. And then for our last Crest Palace of the week, we have B3. B3 is just like Oldies, except it's Sunday. Add clear is as simple as all the other Pro Crests. Do your usual stuff and you should be good. B3 himself isn't anything crazy nowadays. Just make sure you bring elemental resist down and maybe some physical or magic res down, depending on what attacker you are using. You will need an attacker that is kind of quick in order to kill him before his charge attack, because that charge attack goes through, more than likely the nuke will fail. So if you can't kill him before that charge happens, then the best thing to use is to just use a time stop character like Water Malia to freeze him for a bit so you can actually kill him before the charge ever hits you. And there you go, you now know how to nuke every single Crest Palace in the game. Well, not every single one, but most of them in the game. Of course, this is a very, very general, very brief overview of how to nuke most of them, so I didn't go in detail with every single thing. If you're still struggling on any of these, of course, you can leave your questions down below in the comment section, or you can go into my Discord, and there's tons of people in there that would love to help you out in the Q&A section. So hopefully a lot of you guys are able to start looping a lot of these Crest Palaces, so you can hopefully get a lot more 4+. In this day and age, we have so many characters in the game that just deal crazy amounts of damage. It's at the point where pretty much anybody can nuke. I mean, it's not as exclusive as it was back then, where it was only like the crazy meta gamers were able to nuke. Pretty much everybody can nuke nowadays. If you struggle with any of these, or if you can't even nuke Oldies, it's probably just because your account is a bit newer. You need to get a bit more equips in the game, maybe save for a bit more crossovers, then you'll probably be able to tackle a lot of these stages very, very easily. Either way though, I hope all this information is able to help you guys, and if you all enjoyed it, I would highly recommend that you hit that like button and check out these videos popping up on your screen right now. Your boy OP is going to go and get back to it as I usually do, but before I leave, you guys already know, don't forget to drink water.